All right, listen up because we really need to have a serious talk about your time in the gym. The barbell squat is universally recognized as the absolute king of all exercises, right? It builds total body strength, packs on muscle, and boosts your athleticism better than almost anything else you can do. But honestly, here's the brutal truth. A huge majority of lifters out there are secretly butchering it. You might think your form is totally locked in, but minor mechanical flaws kind of creep in over time, and they are absolutely robbing you of your gains. So in this explainer, we're going to strip the squat down to its studs. I'm putting on my coaching hat today to show you exactly where you're leaking power and, more importantly, how to fix it immediately. And we've got to fix it because the stakes here are incredibly high. Seriously, are your squats secretly causing injury? The harsh reality is that bad form doesn't just hold back your strength progression or keep your legs from growing. No, it is a direct, one-way ticket to Snap City. When you put a heavy barbell on your back and descend, physics simply takes over. If your joints and spine aren't stacked and moving efficiently, well, that loaded weight doesn't just magically disappear. It gets absorbed by your ligaments, your tendons, and your spinal discs. Let's make sure you aren't a walking, ticking time bomb. So here's our workout plan for this explainer. We're going to diagnose and correct the 5 most common squat mistakes: knees caving in, not hitting proper depth, lower back rounding, fast rising hips, and improper foot placement.
Okay, let's get right into it with mistake number 1, knees caving in.
The technical term for this is Valgus Collapse. What this actually looks like in the gym is when a lifter reaches the bottom of the squat, and right as they start that incredibly hard drive back upward, their knees suddenly buckle and collapse toward each other. You've probably seen it, or maybe you've even felt it happen when the weight gets super heavy. Why is this such a big problem? Well, because your knee is essentially a hinge joint, and it's meant to track perfectly over your toes. When they cave inward under a heavy load, you're applying massive, unnecessary lateral stress to your knee joints, specifically your ACL and MCL. Leaving this uncorrected is just a recipe for a devastating chronic knee injury.
So how do we actually fix it? It comes down to one simple aggressive cue: push the floor apart. When you're down in the hole and ready to drive up, I want you to imagine that the floor beneath you is a giant crack in the earth, and you're literally trying to split it open by pushing outward with the sides of your feet. By actively trying to spread the floor, you instantly force your glutes and your hip abductors to fire up. These muscles act like anchor ropes pulling your knees outward. Once they engage, your knees naturally track right back over your toes exactly where they belong.
Moving right along to mistake number 2, and oh man, this is an absolute classic: not hitting proper depth. There is just a massive contrast between what people think they're doing and what they're actually doing. A partial squat, often called a quarter squat, is when someone loads up the bar with a massive amount of plates, unracks it, bends their knees a couple of inches, and stands back up. Guys, that's an ego lift. True depth means the crease of your hip drops slightly below the top of your knee joint. That is what a parallel or below parallel squat actually is. Listen, if you aren't hitting depth, you're leaving the absolute best part of the exercise on the table. Cutting reps short means you just aren't fully recruiting your glutes or hamstrings, which are the true powerhouses of the lower body. Plus, working through a full range of motion is exactly how you maintain and even improve joint mobility over your entire lifespan. My advice: drop the ego, strip 20% of the weight off the bar today, sink all the way down into the hole, and build actual undeniable strength. All right, let's look at our next massive red flag. Mistake number 3, rounding the lower back. If you've ever seen someone squat, and right at the very bottom of the movement, their tailbone basically tucks underneath them and their lower back loses its natural arch, well, you've witnessed what gym goers call the butt wink, which is dangerous spinal flexion. Under a heavy load, your spine is perfectly safe when it's neutral, but the second it flexes and rounds, all that compressive force just gets jammed right into your spinal discs. And the root causes here usually aren't tight hamstrings like people think. It's actually a weak core and a complete failure to brace properly before descending. So let's walk through our fix for proper bracing step by step. Number 1, before you even bend your knees, take a massive, deep breath down into your belly. Not your chest, your belly. Number 2, flex your core incredibly tightly. I literally want you to imagine someone is about to punch you right in the stomach. You lock that wall of muscle down to trap that pressurized air inside. Your torso should feel like a solid inflated tire right now. Number 3, you finally descend, keeping that spine absolutely rigid. And whatever you do, do not let out that air until you're past the sticking point on the way back up. This internal pressure creates an invisible weight belt that protects your spine. Okay, next up is mistake number 4. It's highly technical but incredibly common: rising hips too fast.
We call this the good morning squat, named after that barbell exercise where you intentionally bend forward at the hips. But during a squat, this is a really dangerous, flawed pattern. What happens is the lifter gets to the bottom, and as they push up, their legs straighten out, their hips shoot straight up into the air, but the barbell and their shoulders stay exactly where they are. Suddenly, their torso is bent entirely parallel to the floor with heavy weights sitting on their upper back. You've essentially bypassed your strong leg muscles entirely, and now your fragile lower back has to act like a construction crane to hoist that weight back up? No way. To fix this, you absolutely must correct the movement pattern itself, and that really comes down to a mental cue. Your chest and your hips have to rise at the exact same time out of the bottom. Imagine they're tied together by an invisible string. As you push with your legs, I want you to actively think about driving your traps and your shoulders backward and up into the bar. Fight to keep your chest tall. Don't just push the floor away. Push the bar up with your back at the exact same time to keep your torso angle perfectly intact.
Finally, we've reached our fifth mistake, taking us all the way down to the foundation: improper foot placement.
Look, everything starts with how you connect to the floor. If you're squatting and you notice your heels lifting off the ground, or you feel all of your body weight shifting heavily forward onto your toes, your stability is instantly destroyed. You're essentially trying to fire a cannon from a canoe. When your heels pop up, your center of gravity pitches forward, which puts terrible shearing force on your knees and just throws your balance entirely out of whack. You want the weight distributed evenly across your whole foot. Think of it like a tripod between your heel, your big toe, and your little toe. So the fix here is actually twofold. First, look down at your shoes. If you are squatting in thick, squishy running shoes, take them off. Right now, you literally cannot balance a heavy load on a marshmallow. You need hard, flat-soled shoes, dedicated weightlifting shoes with a solid heel, or honestly just squat barefoot. Second, adjust your stance width. If your heels are popping up, you might just be standing too narrow, which prevents your hips from opening up. Play around with your stance. Try pointing your toes out slightly more or stepping out an inch wider until you can sit down while keeping your entire foot completely glued to the floor.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. Here is your rapid-fire mental cheat sheet for your very next training session. Feel free to take a screenshot of this. Number 1, push the floor apart to stop those knees from caving in. Number 2, drop the ego and hit parallel to build real functional strength. Number 3, brace that core like you're taking a punch to protect your spine from rounding. Number 4, drive the chest up with the hips to prevent that dangerous good morning squat. And number 5, get flat shoes and root your whole foot into the ground to build an unshakable foundation. By systematically attacking these 5 flaws, you aren't just preventing a catastrophic injury, you're actually unlocking your true potential to move way more weight effortlessly. The mechanics of the human body are fascinating, guys, but they demand respect and discipline. So I'll leave you with this final thought. When you step up to that barbell, grab the steel, and get under the weight, are you just going to go through the motions again, or will your next rep be your absolute best? Keep analyzing, keep correcting, and keep striving for that perfect form. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now go get after it in the rack.